Welcome back to Safety Blitz. He's Rodney Harris, Jack Collinsworth. Rod, it is Turn the Page Tuesday, so those who need to look beyond what we saw from Sunday or Monday, we'll start with the New England Patriots. Everybody's so high on Mac Jones, Josh McDaniels, this new combination. What do they need to turn the page on right there in New England?
Well, Josh has to come up with a better game plan, unfortunately, because it just seems like everything is stagnant. Everything's quick. Everything's kind of predictable. And I want to see him open up this offense. Give this kid the ball. Let him throw the ball down the field. They spend so much money on all these weapons. And Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, these guys have to start making plays. Coach Belichick guaranteed these guys a lot of money and paid Jonnu Smith $50 million. $50 million. He has to get his confidence back, and he has to be able to hold on to the ball.
It's kind of a weird situation when you look at their roster right now, and like who's the receiver? Who's the great wide receiver on that roster? I mean, they put a bunch of resources into N'Keal Harry to be that guy. They took him at the end of the first round, and everybody was scratching their head going a little bit. N'Keal Harry there, you had DK Metcalf, who was still sitting on the board. Why go N'Keal Harry? It didn't make sense at the time, and now he's really become a bust, and it makes even less sense now. So then you go pay a bunch of money into two tight ends, which is something they've had in the past in New England, two great tight ends on the field at the same time, trying to recreate that, you would think. But can Mac Jones be successful without a great wide receiver on the outside? Do they need to get him more help at the receiver position, or can you do it with just two great tight ends?
No, I mean, they have Kendrick Bourne, who's a very solid player. They have Nelson Aguilar, Jacoby Myers. They got guys that can make plays. The bottom line is it starts up front. They have to get tougher at the point of attack on the offensive line. And when you can run the ball, and that's a staple with the Patriots. I know everybody thought that the Patriots are a passing team, but at the end of the day, this is a team that establishes the run and does everything off the play action pass and all those different things that you see. So they have to reestablish the offensive line and get tougher and start running the ball. And what happened to Randray Stevenson? He was a man that you couldn't stop in the preseason. All of a sudden, he doesn't have clothes on. I don't understand that with Coach Belichick. There's a lot of things that I agree with Coach Belichick, and I'm not there practicing every single day. But if I had that kid, Randray Stevenson, as big and as fast as he is, as fresh as he is, there's no way he'd be sitting on the sideline in street clothes.
Let's get to a team who has history with the New England Patriots, the Seattle Seahawks. You said their defense needs to turn that page. Where specifically?
It just seems like they're so really talking about predictability. They're very predictable. And this defense is based on Jamal Adams. You know, pressure, Jamal Adams. Sometimes you can't always blitz your strong safety. You know what I mean? Sometimes you got to keep two safeties back. And to me, I look at that front four, and I just don't see the constant, consistent pressure that they need. They need to be able to create turnovers. They need better pass rush. They need to be able to tackle in open field. And this team won't go very far in the playoffs always blitzing Jamal Adams, because now all of a sudden you leave your corners on the island. I think your corners are solid. They're not great. And if you're not getting there with the pass rush, then he has to be the guy always trying to create pressure, and that just opens up so many holes and gaps in your defense. So until their defense comes around and start being able to get pressure with the front four, I think it's going to be an up and down season for them.
I don't know who that pressure is going to come from. Carlos Dunlap leads the team in creating pressure like you're talking about. Dunlap, long career in Cincinnati, great years here in Cincinnati. He was kind of on the tail end of all of that, then gets picked up over there with Seattle. Alton Robinson, who was a fifth-round pick out of Syracuse back in 2020, another player that's played well on that defensive front, given what it's been for that defensive front. But those are sort of the names that you're looking at to create those kind of pressures, and none of them are sort of top-tier pass rushers, if you will. Your third turn the page for this Tuesday. Frank Reich and the Colts, you've been critical of them all along. 0-3 now. What about the latest loss?
You have Carson Wentz as your quarterback. So what am I going to do? Drop back and throw the ball 30, 40 times? No. I got Jonathan Taylor. I got a huge offensive line, one of the top 5 offensive lines in all of football. And he was probably in the top 3 last year in terms of total yards as a running back. He was like third. He was third, I guess, overall in terms of yards. Run him. Turn around and give him the ball 20 to 25 times. What about Nyheim Hines? He was a dual threat. He could run the ball. He can come out the backfield. Like, Frank Reich it seems like he's totally changed his offense to fit around Carson Wentz. And Carson Wentz is terrible right now. He's just not very good. He's not playing with a lot of confidence. He's not stepping into his throws. And this is the thing that we talked about, Jack. Like, okay, this is perfect for Carson Wentz. He's familiar with the coach. He's familiar. He's got players and playmakers around him. How can you mess this up? How can you mess this up? And you got Jonathan Taylor. You got all these other weapons. And you got good tight ends.
Well, they're messing it up so far because they're playing teams that are better than them. I was going back and watching some of their games. So they lost to Seattle. They lost to the Seahawks. The Seahawks are just better than them. I mean, Russell Wilson's better. Their defense is better. Indy's this new group trying to figure it out on the fly, and Carson Wentz is hurt. He's got 2 sprained ankles, which I think has been tough on him because if he does have any elements of his game that will survive as a starter in this league, he has to be able to incorporate athleticism. And when he's got 2 sprained ankles, that's been tough on him trying to create some of that athleticism. The Rams and the Titans are their 2 other losses. I mean, on paper, just when you look at the other teams that they're playing, I really think that they've lost to 3 better teams. Would you agree with that? Are all 3 of those teams better than Indy in your eyes? Really?
No.
Why not?
I wouldn't agree with that. I wouldn't think the Titans, like the Titans are on that level with the Colts. But I've been saying this. He's just not very good. Like when you talk about a quarterback and the impact that a quarterback has on a team, he's had a negative impact on the team. He's had a negative impact on the team. You mean to tell me that the Colts are that much worse as a team? They're that much worse than what they were last year. It's because of the quarterback. I'm telling you, it's just because of the quarterback. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Carson Wentz isn't very good. And once the Colts start playing better, then you're going to sit back and say, wow, the Colts are really playing well because Carson Wentz playing well. If he doesn't play well, the team's not going to play well.
I want to wait till he gets a little bit healthier. I know he's going out there, he's trying to tough it out, and it's hard when you're in a new city too, but listen, injuries have been a big part of his career. If you look back at his first 4 or 5 years in the NFL, he's missed a lot of time because of injuries. Now he's got those 2 sprained ankles, and he's trying to play with them and play through them, and it's not exactly working out. So flip it to the other side of the ball with Indy then for me, Rod. If you're not a believer in Wentz and what he's doing with this offense and what he's doing with Frank Reich, what about on the defensive side? What does this Indianapolis defense look like to you?
Man, they got some players. They got players. They got DeForest Buckner and Leonard. They got some good, good guys back there in the secondary. They got some players. But sometimes if your offense is struggling, then all of a sudden defensively you're trying to do too much. You're trying to create negative plays. True. You're trying to get interceptions, turnovers. Now you run out of your responsibility and you get exposed. And that's exactly what's happening. They're frustrated, Indy, because you look around and you see the talent that they have, all the guys that they have. Jonathan Taylor, you looking like, we're not running the ball? Why are we dropping back passing the ball? All we have to do, he's 230, he runs a 4.3, and you're not giving him the ball. And he was 3rd in the NFL. I blame that on the head coach because what he's trying to do, he's trying to make Carson Wentz that guy as opposed. He's just not very good at this point in time, and it's your job as a head coach to understand that and do something a little different.
Well, this whole ND regime is going to come down to those 2. It's either going to be they're going to make it work with Carson Wentz, or Frank Reich's probably going to leave the building, and Carson Wentz very well may leave the entire NFL.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.